Hello, and welcome to Celluloid, where we take a look back at the movies that have been long forgotten, like oh so many genetically mutated creatures. Today, we'll be discussing an extremely bizarre film that shows the world where the inspiration for Dr. Evil's Mini-Me comes from, as well as the beauty of Val Kilmer's Marlon Brando impression, and even what Marlon Brando looks like in a muumuu and whiteface. Yes, join us as we discuss the 1996 film, The Island of Dr. Moreau.
Alright, today we are here live-ish to talk to you about The Island of Dr. Moreau. What year was this?
This was 1996 that this was released.
1996.
Yeah. Which, by the way, we are live because we're actually in the same room together, which has not happened before for our podcast.
You wouldn't know it because of movie magic,
And our
magic,
professionalism,
Yes, we're very good at what we do,
according to us.
and I think we are a good source.
But yes, today we watched The Island of Dr. Moreau, the 1996 John Frankenheimer film that starred Marlon Brando and Val Kilmer.
Yeah, I saw this movie in theaters the first time.
I had never actually seen it. I know about it, but this is the first time I saw it, and I was blown away.
It's wild. It's very wild.
Well, I will say this about the movie, is that reading up on the background of it, this movie was plagued with problems.
It shows.
Yeah. Well, apparently the guy that originally wrote the screenplay, his name's Richard Stanley, and apparently this was his dream project for many years. And he was originally the director of it, but after a few days of shooting, he was fired, and John Frankenheimer was brought on to direct it. And he kind of redid the script.
So, real quick, who's John Frankenheimer?
John Frankenheimer, he directed the original Manchurian Candidate. That was his. He also did
with Frank
Ronin.
Sinatra.
Yeah, he did Ronin, French Connection 2, and Reindeer Games.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild, because there's glimpses in this movie of a really good movie that's trying to be there that just keeps getting suppressed by overacting and movie tropes that don't belong. And
I will say the one thing in this movie that shined through that was excellent the entire way through was the practical and makeup effects by Stan Winston.
They were, yeah.
They were fucking awesome.
I will
really
say there's a
enjoyed them.
couple of background scenes, like some of the background characters, if you look closely, you can kind of
Well, the ones in the background have shitty suits.
They look a little shittier, but no, definitely the people up front look amazing.
Yeah, the makeup effects were wonderful. All of the practical effects with any of the mutations or like laboratory scenes were really awesome.
Yeah.
The only thing is the couple, like maybe 2 or 3 scenes where they tried to insert like early CGI graphics into it looked so awful and wrong.
Yeah, they were bad. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump in. I mean, I will say I love this movie as a child, and I haven't watched it again since then, but I was all about this movie as a kid.
I had never seen it, but I fucking loved it tonight.
And really, like, it's a good time for this kind of movie. Like, this movie did not drag on.
Well, that's the thing. I really thought with the first 10 to 15 minutes of it, I thought it was going to be very slow build up, a very kind of slow moving movie. But as soon as it got into it, this movie really fucking got into it.
I mean, I will say, let's go ahead and jump in. But even from the opening, it just kind of shows these people on a raft, and he's like, and one of the opening lines is, on the third day, my 2 shipmates fought over the water. They ended up fighting over it like animals, and they fell into the water. And
again is kind of foreshadowing and setting up the whole tone of the movie about men acting like animals.
Which really beaten
I
over
will
the head.
say that even before that opening scene, the opening credits, some of the best opening credits ever, because it's just freaky. It's just like it's kind of lab experiments, and you see little cells moving around and stuff, and then like animal shots, and it's very fucking cool.
I liked it until they started repeating the same shots, and you're like, wait, this is all starting to look a little familiar.
But when I saw that, I really was kind of hoping that there was just like a short film, and that's what it was. It was just all these cuts of different things. I kind of wish that's what I was watching. Which, by the way, I will say something about the narration, is that the narration kind of pops up 3 times in this movie. Once at the beginning, there's one short scene where it kind of narrates in the middle, and then once at the end, but it just, you kind of forget the fact that there is a narrator.
Yeah, like, I would say the narration is solid, except for the one in the middle, which, I mean, I even forgot that even happened, so...
Exactly. It kind of, you forget about it, but the opening and the end, that could have made a little bit of sense, but the fact that they tossed one randomly in the middle kind of threw me off. And the narrator is the kind of main character, Douglas, who is played by David Thewlis. And he's probably the worst part about this movie. But apparently he doesn't like this movie either. He vowed to never watch it and didn't even show up to the premiere or something.
Yeah, I mean, he looks like he's on almost a heroin knot or something. Like, he looks horrible in this movie, and he's shaking around.
Everybody kind of does, because Val Kilmer starts to do that too. And as far as it's shown, it seems like they're just maybe smoking weed or something, unless they're smoking some kind of like chemical or drug that they have from the lab. But everyone just all of a sudden in the last third of the movie just looks strung out.
Yeah. I mean, but his character kind of looks strung out the entire time.
Yeah. I will say, though, that his narration, when his opening narration came up, I noticed his voice, he kind of sounded like Slugworth from Willy Wonka. That's kind of how he talked.
I could definitely see that. So getting back, like, they kind of, I love that this movie just throws you into it and doesn't feel the need to explain it. Like, movies don't do this enough anymore, to where it's just like, you know what? I give you credit, audience. You can figure this out.
Yeah.
We don't need to explain who this guy is, why he's on a lifeboat. He's just there, and it's
kind of presented just as like he is the audience, like he is what you're gonna see this story through.
Yeah,
you kind of get the minimal about him background. Like, he was on a ship. Obviously, something happened to it. He's out on a lifeboat. He gets discovered, and then he gets thrown into this crazy world.
Yeah, and so he gets picked up by a boat with Val Kilmer on it, and
what the fuck is going on with Val Kilmer in this movie? Like, he gets brilliant. More and more brilliant the longer the movie goes on, but in the opening he's just weird because he's wearing glasses, he has headphones around his he has a weird blue armband.
Yeah, he has he's a basketball player or something.
Yeah, like he has a very weird style in this movie, which by the way, like, he wears the glasses in the opening scene and stuff. I don't think I see him with glasses again the entire movie.
No, I think they allowed the characters to choose their own costumes, because when it gets to Marlon Brando, my God, all bets are off with whatever the fuck he wants to wear.
I will say, though, Marlon Brando was fucking brilliant in this movie.
My God.
And every time he was on screen, it was a fucking joy to watch. It was the best parts of the movie, and he still fucking had it.
Oh, and he has a little surprise that's amazing. We'll get to his little surprise.
Little surprise.
So we get to the boat, and then Val Kilmer's just kind of reassuring the guy, like, yeah, we're going to drop you off, or they're going to drop me off, then you're going to go this way. And then when they get there, he's like, pretty much implies, like, they're going to rape you if you don't come with me right now.
Yeah, he's pretty much like, hey, you don't want to stay around and get butt fucked, do you?
It's like,
which, by the way, when Val Kilmer is describing the island to him, it's a very weird line, but he's just kind of like, he's talking about the island, and he's like, it's a little Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah, what was that?
I don't know.
What is
and
that?
Then eventually it goes into where it seemed like they're all on acid the entire time or something, so I
guess
know.
it was trying to set him up as like this pothead character he turns into, but he doesn't do that till like halfway through the movie.
Yeah, in the beginning he seems like a very straightforward kind of like vet or doctor person, but it, maybe like he had the headphones around him the whole time, so maybe that means like he's into music, he must be kooky.
Yeah, it was strange, and he just turns into this totally different character halfway through the movie, but you have glimpses of it.
Yeah, he's like a rock star vet, kind of.
Yeah, and so they get to the island where they're putting rabbits into cages, and Val Kilmer's like, no, we're gonna eat this one, and so he snaps its neck in front of...
By the way, the scene, it's very subtle the way it's played, but it's kind of beautiful because he's holding the rabbit, Val Kilmer is, and then he kind of like, he sniffs the rabbit, and then he makes David Thewlis kiss the rabbit, and then he snaps his neck.
I love the kiss. The kiss is awesome. Yeah, just like, kiss the rabbit. No.
Which, by the way, once we get on the island, this movie very much so has a Jurassic Park feel.
In a way, except
a lot of different shots.
It doesn't go out of its way to explain itself the way that Jurassic Park had to.
But just like a lot of the jungle shots and just through the leaves and the grass and everything, and even just with the gene splicing and fucking with DNA and doing that kind of stuff, it had a very much like a Jurassic Park vibe. But at the same time, it also, Stan Winston did the effects, and he also did Jurassic Park stuff, so that kind of parallels a little bit, but also it was kind of a mix between that, and it was also kind of like a science fiction noir. because it had the
Yeah.
sci-fi element, but it was also kind of somewhat of a mystery. And I noticed there was tons of Venetian blinds and like weird shadow play within the movie.
There is,
so it had that
yeah.
noir feel as well.
But it never pays off the way noir does.
It doesn't, but it even has kind of like the Fairuza Balk character, his Marlon Brando's daughter, kind of plays as like the femme fatale character.
She does, and she still doesn't pay off the way that a femme fatale should. So it's like, yeah, it definitely has this noir feel to it, but it never goes anywhere with it. It's just such a sideline thing that it's almost forgettable.
I will say though, when Fairuza Balk first shows up, it's very like kind of sexy Cinemax music playing, along with like tribal monkey mating sounds going on.
Yeah, and she's like doing this weird belly dance in the middle of nowhere.
Which I didn't know who it was
hall.
at first. I just saw the dancing, and then it looked like a pretty good dancer, and I think it was a body double. But then once it did a close up, and we saw that it was Fairuza, I was just like, "Oh, white Fairuza Balk can't dance." She was just like moving very awkwardly all of a sudden, like she couldn't do the moves that she was just doing a second ago.
She can't move fluidly the way that's necessary.
And also, there was a cute moment because apparently, pretty much everyone on this island is at least somewhat like half human, half animal.
Yeah.
And when Fairuza Balk first meets Douglas, the main character, like shakes her hand or whatever, and she kind of like smells his hand as well. That was again very subtle moments of like even the human characters kind of having animal tendencies.
Yeah. And so after this, Val Kilmer shows it was Douglas Edward. Is that his name?
No, it's something Douglas. Douglas is his
something
last
Douglas.
name.
I want to say it's Edward Douglas.
Edward Douglas. That makes
okay,
sense.
yeah, because I wanted to say Edward, and you said Douglas. But yeah, okay, that makes more sense.
He's just referred to as Douglas throughout the movie.
So Edward Douglas, the Val Kilmer takes him to his room, and he's just there's this really weird scene where he's just like, these look very agreeable. And he just kind of keeps talking to himself, and Val Kilmer will not react. And then all of a sudden, Val Kilmer just backs out the door and just shuts it. You're like, what the fuck is happening here?
Something about that scene, before they even go into the room, like, he's just kind of talking, making small talk with them.
Yeah.
And the guy asks Val Kilmer, like, oh, how did you get here? How long have you been here and stuff? And he starts telling him, but then at one point, he kind of opens up a little bit too much, and he's like, eventually, and he kind of, like, stares off longingly. And then he starts laughing. It's like, you almost got me. You almost got me to spill the beans. But then, like, when he walks in and shows him his room after that whole It's Agreeable scene, he stands there for a minute, almost as if he's, like, waiting for a tip. Like, he's a bellhop.
It's really strange. It's just, like, he won't leave, and the guy's just, like, trying to drop hints. Like, I'm good. Like, you can,
and he's just like,
head He might as well
Sir?
have. I would not be surprised if Val Kilmer did that in alternate takes. I think
He was waiting for him to slip him a fiver.
there is this movie. Everyone is trying to act on top of each other, and it just becomes a clusterfuck of overacting.
It really does.
It's so funny. And so he gets locked in the room, but that doesn't take Edward too long to get out. It could have not happened just as easily.
Well, then you wouldn't have gotten that really awesome, like, fadeaway shot when he's, like, stuck behind bars like an animal in a cage, and he does a very girly slap against the bar.
He's like, let me out! It's awesome.
But it was weird because it seemed like it wasn't even supposed to really be seen because it was during a fade out.
Yeah. No,
like, they just accidentally ran the cut a little bit too long.
Yeah, I think that is exactly what happened. Like, they weren't planning to use a fadeaway, but they were like, fuck, now we have to go with it.
But this is the point when we really get into the movie.
Yeah, well, so Edward, he gets out, he heads to this silver room that's, apparently they don't lock, but he just kind of waltzes in. There's llamas and other animals all in cages. And he finds these people doing this weird surgery on a cow woman.
Well, it looks like she was giving birth.
She's giving birth, yeah.
But, okay, when they finally, like, kind of pull the sheet away and reveal what it is it weird that I got a little turned on by the six-tittied goat horse woman thing?
Yes, because it was hideous. That is very weird.
I'll deal with that later.
You deal with that on your own time. You talk to your therapist, sir.
You are my therapist.
Well, we'll talk about it later. I knew we were going to. And so, and then we start seeing all the animal people. There's these weird animal butlers that look oddly like black people. Like, there's one with dreadlocks. Like, it looks very Jamaican-esque. Like...
A little bit, yeah. He's kind of like the dog boy one. Yeah. Which he reminded me a lot of, like, Keanu Reeves as the dog boy in Freaked. Which actually, several of the characters in this movie just made me kind of think of Freaked.
I haven't seen Freaked, actually.
Oh, you should.
It's on my radar now. But yeah, but there's this, and I think it's present in the book too, to a certain degree, the same way as like Heart of Darkness. There's this racist undertone to the entire proceedings. I think it, no, because it's H.G. Wells. He would. Never mind. We'll pass on that.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like late 1800, or kind of like mid to late 1800s when the book came out.
There's a slight racist element to this movie, or a race element. I won't even say racist.
It was kind of maybe more classist than racist. It was more kind of like having underlings and animals as your servants and stuff, but that could somewhat have undertones.
But they're definitely like, all the butlers look like black people. They're the color
I think
of
they
black
look
people.
more like Teen Wolf.
that's what happens when you let a mad scientist let loose on an island. He just turns everyone into Teen Wolf.
Pretty much.
And so is this blah blah blah. Anyway, let's get to the woods where there's a bunch of crashed planes around. Like, this is where the animals live.
Was it a bunch? I thought it was just one crashed plane.
Was it just one? I thought it was like at least two.
Oh, maybe so, but I just thought it was setting up as in like, oh, planes crashed on this island, and the doctor took the survivors and then turned them into like animal people. But it's weird because it seems like that's the crash site where they kind of all live. Yet there is this weird like, you know, electric elevator that took them down to like an underground church place. Like, why would that happen to just be like where the planes crashed?
Well, the craziest thing is there's at least a fifth of this movie is spent in that elevator dungeon, and you never see how they get down there. You never see where the elevator actually is.
Well, it just cuts from the above to the elevator.
Yeah, so it's just like, it's accepted that they've apparently built an underground bunker and rigged it with electronics so they can have an elevator for who knows why.
See, but that seems so weird. It made me think that maybe that was already there, but I guess the planes just happened to crash right where that bunker was.
And they just decided to set up camp there and then build this whole elevator bunker for the preacher, who is Ron Perlman, which we didn't notice because he has so little to do.
But I mean, I bet he just enjoyed wearing that makeup and getting to work with Marlon Brando.
Yeah.
I think pretty much the only reason anybody signed on to this movie was to work with Marlon Brando.
Yeah, it's just like, oh really, Marlon Brando?
It's like, okay, I'll do it, yeah.
And then they saw his hats. They're like, oh shit, what have we done? so Ron Perlman's this whole preacher. He's just like, don't give in to your animal instincts, blah blah blah. And there was a good line. Oh, there's like, make love to more than one in every which way. Like, what?
I couldn't help myself. I finished that line during the movie. He said every which way, and I went, but loose.
But I mean, I didn't even really understand what he was talking. I guess he's talking about give in to your animalistic side. I don't know.
Because even towards the end of the movie, that's kind of what he's saying. He was like, Dr. Moreau tried to make us walk on two legs, try to make us be more like men. Yeah. Maybe it's better to be on four legs. Maybe it's better for us to be what we really are.
But he also seemed to stick up for Moreau at certain parts, I thought. Like, I guess he was just more against the violence than he was pro Moreau.
One thing I noticed is that character motivations were not of any concern to this film.
Yeah, especially Edward. Edward's motivations are all over the map.
Yeah, same thing with Val Kilmer's character, Montgomery, who is Dr. Moreau's assistant.
Yeah, Montgomery, Val Kilmer, he's just stoned, I think, is kind of what's going on with him.
Well, apparently, I don't know if any of this is true, but background information and trivia and details that I read about the movie was that Val Kilmer strictly signed on just to work with Marlon Brando. Yeah. But apparently didn't care about the movie, didn't learn his lines or come up with anything for his character when he showed up 2 days late to this. So he just kind of showed up and started doing his thing.
Yeah, it totally shows because Val Kilmer is.
But he's still fucking brilliant.
No, he's awesome, but he doesn't make any goddamn sense in this movie.
No. But he goes very much in sync with everything else in this movie by doing that.
And then let's see, we get to the bad CGI scene where we meet this animal that killed a bunny, and that kind of sets off this whole chain of events.
Which, by the way, the whole dead bunny thing. Okay, Fairuza Balk's character lives on an island with a bunch of like mutated creatures and just very disgusting and kind of gross things that she sees on a daily basis. Yeah. She sees a dead bunny hanging in a tree and she freaks out. That seemed off to me.
Like that's I mean, I guess since she's Brando's daughter, maybe she's just been so sheltered.
He has mutated servants that are doing everything for.
Once again, motivation's all over the place. Who knows what's happening here? And I love that when they first show the dead bunny in the tree, it kind of looks like a tampon, like a bloody tampon hanging from the tree. And you're just like, oh. And then they're just like, no, he's a Sassaman. He's a 5-fingered man like you. And it's like, Sassaman. Like, is this really...
Well, it's funny because he kind of acknowledges that and he calms down for a second. And then randomly, without anything happening, he loses his shit and he's like, monkey angry! And he starts jumping around and hitting things with a stick.
It totally turns into 2001: A Space Odyssey because he has like a bow in his hand and he's just like, bah! Ah! What are you doing? It is
just the violence of man.
Just the violence of ape-like men things. And so then we get to Brando.
Oh, I've been waiting this whole time for us to get to Brando. And
when he appears, he has powder on his face, but he's also wearing a costume that makes him look like a very virginal. He basically shows up in a low-rent Pope mobile. Yes.
And again, like you said, he had this white makeup all over his face, and I saw it, and even you called me on it. I was just like, Marlon Brando in powder.
Yeah. He looks like powder dressed as the Flying Nun. He has this weird hat on.
It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. But he still has these weirdly dark sunglasses to where he almost looks like he's something out of a Tim Burton movie.
Yeah.
In a weird clashing way.
It did have a very Tim Burton-ish feel to it.
And also, like, he's wearing something around his neck, which we find out the purpose of it is that's how he controls and keeps the animals in line. Because if he pushes a certain button, it'll, like, cause pain for them because they have implants in them.
Yeah.
But it basically just looks like he has, like, a Flava Flav, like, bling around his neck.
Yeah. I do love, because Edward kind of freaks out beforehand, and, like, people are, like, they're trying to call, like, not just kind of, they're kind of circling him. And then Val Kilmer's pointing a gun at him. And Marlon Brando's like, stop. Give him that gun. He's very frightened. Give it to him. Like, why would you give a frightened person a gun? And the first thing he does when he gets a gun is start firing it wildly into the air.
And then he points it at Brando, and then he points it at everyone else.
Like, that's why you don't give frightened people guns.
Well, I think Marlon Brando is just a good judge of character, and he just realized that David Thewlis's character is a fucking pussy, and he wasn't going to shoot anybody.
Yeah, I would say in the end, Marlon Brando is really an idealist. Like, I would say, like, he's kind of like a prototype of a dictator. Like, when he first comes into power.
He's almost kind of like always trying to prove a point. So I think, like, giving him the gun, he's trying to prove that, man's not automatically going to kill everything around him. He's going to be okay. He's going to calm down. He's going to be cool.
Yeah, surprisingly, out of everyone in this movie, Brando is probably the most grounded.
But again, his motivations are very all over the place. Because, again, he's always preaching, like, non-violence, not killing for any reason whatsoever, not eating meat or anything because you'd have to kill something. Yet, when you go into his house, he has, like, a whole wall full of animal skulls.
Yeah.
A little weird.
Well, I guess that's the scientist side coming out. And I think, like,
I guess, but that's the kind of thing that maybe would be in a lab. It's displayed like a hunter would display things that he's killed.
That's true. I think, like I said, I think he's an idealist in the way that he'd rather I don't know. I don't get it.
And also, again, Marlon Brando is fucking brilliant in this movie, but it seems like they definitely put some kind of fake teeth on him, like kind of buck teeth almost, where his teeth stick out, because it gave him a bit of a speech impediment.
Yeah.
Like, and not your usual Brando speech impediment that he got once he got fat. Like, they seem like they put big, almost bucked teeth onto him to where it kind of like, it gave him a bit of a lisp and kind of like made his words sound a little bit different.
It actually made him sound a little bit more normal, I would say, than like The Godfather.
Well, he didn't sound like Brando.
He definitly did not sound like Brando.
Well, I mean, of course not like The Godfather. He had cotton shoved in his mouth when he was doing his lines for The Godfather.
I do love when he's talking out of his Pope mobile that he is microphoned and there are speakers on the front of the car, but there is no microphone anywhere near him. You're just like, how is he mic'd? Like, how is it, like, what is he mic'd from? It's weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we talk about Little Buddy?
We can talk about Little Buddy.
Oh my god, okay. So, Marlon Brando was fantastic in this movie, but what put him even beyond that, what made this movie one of the best movies I've watched in a long time, is who we affectionately refer to as Marlon Brando's little buddy. who was a very tiny man, maybe like 2 feet tall,
Yeah.
and he has very very small features, very again kind of painted up to be animalistic in a way, but he's honestly I think
Mostly he looks like a prenatal birth or something.
yeah, he does, but I honestly think that his relationship with Marlon Brando in this movie, this is where Mini-Me came from. And the second the Austin Powers sequel,
Well,
I think,
no.
because everything about it, it seemed like that. They always wore the same outfits.
Yeah.
They did things together, like play piano together, where he had his own little, like, tiny sheet music printed for his tiny piano.
No, when we also were introduced to little Buddy cleaning off Marlon Brando's makeup. So affectionately.
It is, and like
oh
they're
my
the
God.
best of friends, and they just seem to have this deep connection. And it almost seems like it is like a small clone of Marlon Brando that he tried fucking around with. It's never really expressed or talked about, but it kind of seems like their connection is so close that it was some little part of him that he tried to make into something that turned wrong.
Definitely, that's definitely.
So I think that's where Mini-Me came from. Was someone saw the island of Dr. Moreau?
Yeah, and then Edward, it just comes off like a dick. He's just freaking out. He's like, "This is the most outrageous spectacle I've ever witnessed." And
He wouldn't shake little Buddy's hand.
he would shake his hand. And he's just like, "Look at this! Look at him!" Pointing at him like that's a real person in that suit. That is a cruel line to make him say to that person.
Oh no, he's a complete asshole.
Yeah, like, he's so cute.
He's so adorable.
Yeah.
Like, I would have done more than shake his hand. I would have given him a fucking hug.
Yeah,
Immediately. I just would have been like, please, like, can I have you?
You know what? Maybe that's worse than Edward. You're objectifying him.
Well, I would want to take him away from Marlon Brando. I want him to be my little buddy and
No,
dress like
'cause-
me and go on adventures with me.
But he loves
It's not so much like I wouldn't treat him like shit or really own him. It'd be kind of like a Clint Eastwood orangutan relationship.
Really,
Like he would be my buddy and he would get me out of jams and we'd go on adventures together.
But you know what? That's Marlon Brando's buddy. You can't have him. They already have the relationship
I
built.
know.
They dress like each other.
I will say there was one scene where I was very disappointed that little buddy did not show up. Because there was one scene where Marlon Brando had a hat and an outfit that was so ridiculous and beautiful. I just wanted to see little buddy with a miniature version of that outfit
Just
on.
go ahead and talk about it. And Marlon Brando is wearing like a cone, like almost like a cone hat. Like he's wearing a cut off ice cream cone that just kind of comes down to his head. That he gets his daughter to pour, I guess, ice into. He's like, "Oh yes,
The curl of his head, yeah.
Yeah, he's just like, "Oh yes, that feels good." Just like what? It like,
But yeah, it's this big he kind of looks like Kid from Kid and Play, but with hat form.
yeah.
So I just really wish that little buddy would have been there with just a tiny version of that hat on top of his head.
That really that was a missed opportunity, I have to say. So after we already talked about it, but after that we get to the piano duet. And it's so beautiful. It's Marlon Brando just and his little buddy having a piano duet. And we're just kind of watching
And the joy on both of their faces during this scene,
Oh,
like
they
this is
love
just
it.
it's beautiful. It was touching because you can just feel the relationship between them.
I wish that had been the movie. Like, I wish that had been the focus of the movie. They're like, well,
Yeah,
as
if we
much
had
as I
lost
love
that
Val-
main audience character and just
Yeah.
like went to this island and just saw their adventures.
I feel like this is the behind the scenes of Dr. Moreau. Like that's the movie I want to see. And then we get to this dinner and they read the poem that I can't remember what it is, but Slouching Towards Bethlehem, that's where it drew its title. And they're talking about the devil, and we kind of get Orson Welles, not Marlon Brando's. We kind of get Marlon Brando's reason for doing everything, and it's essentially they talk about the devil a lot. Like, there's this religious element that really never comes up too much. Just it's like the whole movie is vaguely spiritual.
It's kind of brushed over.
Yeah, but it's just they're talking about there's elements in human nature that destroys and debases and things like that. And Lucifer.
Well, he's saying that he's trying to perfect that. He's trying to get
Yes.
rid of that element of human nature by somehow he's trying to get rid of that element from human composition by tossing animal genes into that.
Yeah, which is a strange concept to say the least, because humans in a state of nature are like animals, and we got better than that. Like we kind of grew out of our
Yeah,
animal
that's
nature.
still
So
there, but we're more able to control it. But
yeah,
he's trying to get rid of that element by putting more of the animalistic instinct into us.
yeah. When losing the animal instinct is what made us above the killing and just randomness of nature in the first place.
Because him trying to do that, I understand his intention was to get rid of that.
Yeah.
But the way he's doing it is by putting more animalistic instinct into a person and then only making them not act on those instincts by, causing fear, by causing pain in them and making them subservient.
Because it's just like, you look at a leopard and like, oh, they know how to live. Like, no, that doesn't make any sense. Like, they have to kill or be killed. Like, that's their whole life.
But he's doing that and then telling them not to kill, telling them, not to do their natural instincts and not to act on them. And then if they try to do that, he hurts them.
Yeah. Doesn't make any sense. I don't get the fuck he's going on about. So there's this haughty theme kind of built in that it's just like is this weird circular argument that doesn't make any sense. And Edward, anyway, I just want to move on. Edward tries to sneak out. He goes to the ship, but there's a bunch of rat men.
Okay, before this happens though, before he meets the rat men, he's kind of like climbing down and he steps on a box. And he starts he basically falls down and he screams.
Yeah.
But he starts screaming before anything happens, if you actually watch it. Like, he starts screaming, and then it cuts down to his foot, and then you see the box tip over. So he screams first. Yeah, that was hilarious to me.
That's bad. And like all these little rat people jump out. They're like kind of threatening him, and then it just moves on.
Yeah,
like,
we never
whatever.
see the rat people again.
No.
They're never explained. Nothing ever happens with them.
Just it prevented him from doing whatever the fuck he thought he was going to do in the bellows of a ship. I don't know. And then we go to the trial where they're putting Leopard Man on trial for eating the rabbit, and then we get Marlon Brando in his flying nun costume. Then we get his little buddy beside him in the same exact costume, even though he's not allergic to the sun like Marlon Brando. That's why Marlon Brando wears a powder, by the way, is because he's allergic to the sun.
Yeah. Well, I think maybe he is allergic to the sun like him, because like I said, I think he's a little Marlon Brando clone.
No, because later in the movie, remember, he's naked.
Oh, out in the sun, that's true.
Sun, yeah.
He just wants to be like Marlon Brando.
No, he does. He just wants to dress like him. That's what's so cute about it. He just wants to look like him.
There was
no
not
reason.
nearly enough of him in this movie.
Oh, it could have been so much more explored.
That was the most adorable relationship ever. Like, that's like everything in this movie. Most of it I was just laughing at, but that actually made me feel something. That was actually a touching relationship.
It was. They loved each other so much.
It was beautiful.
And the trial, the Leopard Man, like that's where Marlon Brando starts shocking people. Oh, well, he'd already done it, but he's just like, I forgive you, my friend. And then the dreadlock butler comes out of nowhere and just shoots him in the head. He's just like, oh shit. And he's like, no, there's no killing, but just burn him. You're free to go. So that kind of sets off the seeds of a revolt.
Yeah,
it's essentially what happens in that whole scene. And like we watch God, what's his name? Not leopard. The main bad animal.
Oh, the hyena.
Hyena, yeah, hyena. When we watch, so leopard gets burned. Hyena goes and digs up his bones, like takes his skull and is smelling it. But then he finds his rib where he finds the chip that they're shocked with, and so he's like, oh, and he finds it on himself, pulls it out, so he can't be shocked anymore. And then we go to this weird side, like the weird lab scene where it just feels like, I wrote Wells in my note too. It feels like Marlon Brando is just throwing out science terms. He's like, this looks opaque. It's almost opaque. And then he just kind of takes this test sample.
Like a laser pointer.
Yeah, he's just pointing a laser, but he's like,
see that?
Yeah, see?
Yeah, see that?
Yeah. Like, it's just this weird scene where like nothing is really explained. It's just, it looks like it's trying to be sciencey, but it never quite crosses that threshold.
But again, that's gonna pass for the general public.
yeah, essentially. And then we go and we get back with Val Kilmer, and he's handing out shots to these lady creatures that are all over him.
But he also seems like he's feeding them things, mouth to mouth.
Yeah, I don't...
He's giving them shots, but it looks like he's feeding them snacks out of that. So, basically, I got the vibe that Val Kilmer totally fucks the animal bitches.
I think he probably does, but he's talking about the shots that he gives them, that prevents them from regressing, but he's also saying he's saying like they have mushrooms in them to keep them calm, like.
Okay, well that makes much more sense. I didn't catch that part of it.
Yeah.
Because like I said, all I saw, it seemed like they were smoking weed or something, but everyone seemed like they were just tripping. And I was like, that makes much more sense if he was taking mushrooms.
Yeah, no, the serum was like a psychedelic also, and that's what was keeping them calm in a certain way.
And he was obviously taking his own stuff.
Yes, yeah, Val Kilmer is high as a kite half of this film. And so Hyena shows Val Kilmer that he's taking out his shock thing, and Val Kilmer just all of a sudden just freaks the fuck out. He's like, oh fuck, I gotta shoot him with his gun real quick, even though there's other animals around, and he misses, they get away, and like
Which even he talks like the other animals aren't there.
Yeah.
And he's just like, oh, he took out his chip. That's the thing we used to fucking keep him in line.
Yeah.
While there's other animals right there, they could hear, oh, all I have to do is take out this chip and you can't control me anymore.
Oh, fuck, that's what that lump is.
Yeah.
that makes so much more sense now. And so, yeah, this is it's showing the beginnings of an insurrection.
Which, by the way, the most adorable scene in the movie happens during this, because we see Marlon Brando's little buddy, and he's, like, sitting on top of the van, and he's just butt-ass naked.
He has a little tail.
Yeah, he does, and he has his big old tush sticking out, and it's just, like, all red in the sun, and he's just, like, shaking around, being happy and free. And it is so fucking adorable.
He is so adorable. And then there's this chase scene, but then we go back to this comm room where they're one of the butlers.
Though, this scene, though, where Val Kilmer, like, tries to shoot him and everything as he's running away.
Yeah.
I kept thinking just about every time Val Kilmer was in this movie, minus, like, his last parts of the movie, it really just made me want to watch The Ghost in the Darkness real bad. Most of this movie, when he was in it, it made me want to watch The Ghost in the Darkness.
Oh, I love that movie.
It's going on the table.
Yeah, because I haven't seen it since I was really fucking
But yeah,
young.
that just kept happening. But then when the chase scene happens, it got this weird, like, Planet of the Apes vibe all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Like when they were chasing him with a net and trying to capture him, and it got a real Planet of the Apes vibe.
And they
Because they were along a beach and everything, too.
Yeah. But they also stopped the chase scene, like, midway through. Like, it's
never resolved.
He hasn't escaped, and they just kind of end the chase scene, like, okay, we're moving here now. And we move to the comm room, where the butler is trying to explain to him, like, oh, I've done this so many times, and I can't do it now. And the window opens, and Val Kilmer is wearing, like, the motherboard of the computer as a hat. He's just like...
Well, he pops in with the best line, because they're like, oh, I can't get this communication system to work. I don't know why, but I can't. And he pops open the door, and he's like, because you can't without this. And he leans down his head and has the motherboard on his head. It's so brilliant, and I have to think that that's something that he improvised.
Yeah.
Like, that he just came in and he's like, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah, they're just like, no, Val, we really just need you to hold up the motherboard. It's like, no. I'm going to strap it to my head.
I am tripping hardcore on shrooms at this point. I'm going to turn it into a hat.
Because, goddammit, that's what I would do if I was tripping.
But the funniest part about it is he does that. It's a very comedic moment, and it's very funny. And then he comes in there, and he's holding, like, a squeak toy. And he throws the squeak toy outside and gets the Teen Wolf guy to go fetch it.
Well, no, I love that the Teen Wolf guy, he just looks so subservient. He looks so dejected while he's chasing. He's like, oh, well, yeah, of course I'm going to chase it.
Yeah, why'd you have to throw it, asshole?
Yeah, come on, I was going to
I was anyway. Right here. You could have just handed it to me. But he does that, but then when he sits down, he takes the motherboard off his head and then just throws it out the fucking window he just showed up in. That was completely pointless, everything he just did.
Yeah, which begs the question, why couldn't Ever just go out there, pick it up, and put it back in the fucking computer?
Yeah. Well, and not only that, because he throws it out, but then he starts kind of talking to him, but he seems like he doesn't really care about talking to him. He puts his headphones on, listens to about 10 to 15 seconds of a song, and then takes his headphones back off and keeps talking to him.
Man, he is on another world right now. He has got some crazy regression fluid rocking in his veins. Oh man. And then we get back, and this is where Brando has this crazy hat. But this is where I noted that I think Brando is playing Truman Capote Like he plays this role like a Southern belle almost, like at certain points.
A little bit, especially the scene that we're talking about now.
With his
He's
daughter,
just like,
yeah.
I just cannot handle this heat.
Oh, please pour the ice in my hat, daughter.
I just don't know if I'm gonna make it.
I think I got the vapors. It's like he plays it so almost Southern effeminate. Like it's wonderful, and so but sadly we lose him right after because we get to the insurgent animals break in. Brando doesn't know they don't have their electronic chip, and they're just kind of pounding at a piano because they don't understand it.
Which, by the way, it seems like they were breaking in there with purpose. Like, maybe they were already going to kill Brando or something.
Yeah.
But they just break in, and then they get distracted and amazed by the piano.
They're just like, oh my god, what is this amazing thing that makes noise?
It makes a noise! It makes a noise!
Yeah, really didn't make any sense. And Brando comes in, he's like, and he starts explaining to him about Gershwin and starts playing him a song. As God knows what.
Well, that's the thing, because the monkey kind of hit a couple of notes.
Yeah.
And he comes in and he's like, I heard some music going on down here. And I was like, there's this, 12-note music or whatever.
Yeah.
And he just, plays it. And he's like, yeah, that's what you were doing. That's really good. But there's this other type of music by Gershwin.
What was the point of any of this, then?
I guess he tried to reassure them and boost their ego a bit and just be like, oh, no, what you were doing was really good, but check out this music.
Yeah, the real music. So we gotta play some piano a little bit, and then there's this whole scene like, why make pain if we are your children? And by the way, all the animals all their lines are ADR'd, and they are all ADR'd with this weird growl that makes them sometimes indistinguishable, just like,
yeah, it was very hard to understand their dialogue for the most part. Like, their dialogue was simple enough and short enough to kind of get what they were saying, even if you didn't quite hear it. But most of what they had, especially the ADR stuff, was just like noises. And most of it was kind of confusing noises. You weren't sure if they were kind of laughing or snickering or being sexual. Like, you really couldn't tell in any of it.
It's strange. And so,
but also, we do get another scene with the little buddy here, because the little buddy goes into his drawer because he kind of sees what's happening, and he pulls out his bling thing that he can push to give them pain.
The bling button.
But because he's so small, he's able to sneak in next to him and give it to him without anybody noticing.
Yeah, but he's also wearing the same bathrobe that Orson did. God damn it, that Marlon
Stop
Brando.
calling him Orson Welles.
You know what? They're the same person to me. God damn it.
Yes, they both were brilliant when they were younger and then got fat and belligerent later on in their career. But they are not the same person.
No, that's the tie. That's where it all comes together for me, man. And so then we go to this Viking burial they have where they set Marlon Brando on fire.
Really? You can't go a fucking minute after calling him Orson Welles without doing it again?
It's really fucking hard for me, okay? It's really hard. I'm working on it. I have problems.
Okay, seriously, if you want Orson Welles so bad, let's watch the 1987 film Butterfly that had him in it as a fat judge.
I'm down.
And it also has
down.
Mickey Rourke, and it's an erotic thriller.
Hey, I think we...
Except minus the thriller part. And it's not that erotic, it just has some nudity.
I think we have a new item on the table. and like Edward is talking to Marlon Brando's daughter. He's just like, you are not the same as them. Now you are the same as me. And she's like, oh, I'm regressing. I need the fluid. And he's like, I'll go get you the fluid.
Which, by the way, once she actually revealed the fact that she was like that and she was changing, I kind of noticed Fairuza Balk kind of has a monkey face. Like, it kind of made sense. Once he started regressing, I don't think they really did anything makeup-wise other than teeth.
Yeah.
But I noticed as soon as she did that, I was like, yeah, she does kind of have a monkey face. It kind of matches.
I think she did get cast for her slightly animalistic face.
And I'm really not talking down about her at all. I've always thought she was attractive.
Oh, yeah. I think she's really attractive.
Yeah, and she's very attractive in this movie as well.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
she
even
does
American History X, where she's bald and shit.
Totally. But, she totally has a monkey face.
She totally does have a monkey face.
And I'm totally down with that, just so you know, Fairuza.
Oh, man. It's hard to explain the last part of this movie because it gets so batshit insane.
Yeah, this gets to the point of the movie where I didn't know what the fuck was happening. Everything just turned completely. Once Brando died, once Dr. Moreau died, everything went ape shit. And I didn't know what the fuck was happening.
Yeah.
And it basically just, everything is going crazy. There's a revolution happening, but since there's only like 3 humans on the island, there's not that much of a revolution to
who are they going to revolt against?
Yeah, and then as soon as Dr. Moreau dies, Val Kilmer's assistant character Montgomery goes crazy on mushrooms, I guess, or whatever psychedelics he's on.
Yeah.
But in doing so, he takes his place, and then he starts imitating Marlon Brando.
It's amazing.
But not even like Dr. Moreau Marlon Brando. He just starts imitating like stereotypical Marlon Brando.
Yeah.
Like Godfather Marlon Brando.
Yeah, he's in a chair and he's put on like the makeup and like the nun outfit, and he's just like he's speaking into a microphone that somehow how did Edward not notice he was sitting 10 feet away from him the entire time?
I don't know. It wasn't until the microphone sound came on that he noticed.
Yeah, because Edward is just kind of skulking around this room trying to find something, and then all of a sudden he just kind of sits down in defeat, and then all of a sudden Val Kilmer starts talking through a microphone.
But it's weird because they build it up almost as if like, oh, Marlon Brando's still alive. Like you're unsure that it's Val Kilmer.
Which is ridiculous because we saw him burned.
Exactly.
Like,
so,
what?
But they kind of play it that way, and then it's like, obviously they play it way longer than it should because everyone knows it's Val Kilmer. And then they turn around and it's him, but he's just doing his best Marlon Brando impression, and it's kind of brilliant in its own right.
It's pretty good. No, and my favorite part is definitely after he's done talking to Edward, he just gets up and walks away, and he has a bunch of towels just stuffed in his belly that he just kind of lets fall. He's just like, whatever.
Because Val Kilmer is a method actor.
Yes.
He's not going to sit there and do a Brando impression without trying to get the Brando belly going.
He's gonna get into Brando.
Yeah, so basically he goes into the underground, like, church lair place, the bunker that we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
And it's just basically fucking orgy time.
Yeah.
But everyone is just fucking everywhere, and it's kind of, it's brushed over kind of quickly because it's a PG-13 movie.
Yeah, they're all clothed.
But it's all monkey sex going on, pretty much.
Yeah,
and he's giving a talk about Sherlock Holmes. Like, he's telling an anecdote about Sherlock Holmes.
It's all so strange, and like they keep referring back to the who's the real animal, man or animal. Like that gets referred to a couple of times. That was not really explored. Just kind of keeps being beaten over the head that hey,
Val
central
Kilmer
theme
does have his best line of the movie. Because we basically come to the point, spoilers, everything is always spoilers, but Val Kilmer gets killed.
Yeah.
But a little bit before that happens, he has one of the best lines of the movie, where he's just like, well, this didn't work out.
Didn't work out, and then he's talking to the butler, the reggae butler guy, and he's just like, what's instinct to a dog? And it's like, to hunt and kill. He's like, I want to go to dog heaven, and then the butler shoots him. He's like,
okay, thanks.
Yeah.
See you in dog heaven. But I will say, after Brando dies and then after Kilmer dies, this movie fucking falls apart.
Yeah,
it does. The entire last like 20 minutes or whatever it's really awful, and it's just a bunch of like trying to pay things off that were never really set up, or at least not earned.
I will say, right after Kilmer dies, there's this really inexplicable scene in the lab where Edward finds like he has a vial of his blood, and then there's also these 2 like jars with, I guess, it looks like nothing's in them but just water, but he looks at the jars and they're labeled the same exact way, like they had the same exact label. That's not science.
And again, immediately that would make you think that like, oh, they did experiments on him and he's gonna change into an animal creature as well.
Yeah,
but then it's kind of thrown away in a line to where like apparently they were trying to get his DNA to help stop Bulk's regression.
Yeah, and he has this line that's, I thought he saved my life, when all the time he intended to take it. Like, what? No, he didn't.
Well, no, but he was literally taking his life. He was taking his DNA, his life force from him.
That's stupid.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying about this movie.
It's like, I've never heard
this whole
sperm
scene
banks.
where that's happening and they're talking together,
Yeah.
There's this big swelling of like romantic music, and it's almost like this big uplifting moment that is not earned whatsoever.
No.
Like, we don't give a fuck about their love story that doesn't even really exist.
It's a mild obsession on his part and almost bitter disinterest on her part.
Yeah,
like that is their love story.
It's another option for her. That's
Yeah,
it. It's something other than what she's been dealing dealing with her whole life.
It's the better option than staying on the island is, hey, maybe this guy will help me.
But just everything as it starts coming to conclusions and as everything starts wrapping up and there tries to be this big finale. And that's the problem with this movie. I really loved it, but it basically, it fucking blew its load when there was still a half hour left. Like, once they killed off Brando and they killed off Kilmer, there was nothing left. It was done, and there were no stakes whatsoever for the audience.
And really, I mean, so follow me on this. So this is the imagined ending I have of the movie, is that shit starts to fall apart. So Brando's daughter, she gets hung. And he...
Which, by the way, before this scene, though, when she's starting to go through her transformation or whatever, no transformation really happens. All that happens is that, like, she kind
gets
of
a couple more teeth.
She gets a couple more teeth. Honestly, she looks like something straight out of Interview with a Vampire.
Yeah.
But she sounds like an alley cat.
Yeah, and she keeps going, which she hasn't done the entire movie.
It's always like when it's shooting the back of her head, it's 80-yard cat sounds put in there.
Yeah. But, so follow me on this. The she gets hung. The Edward barely manages to escape, and he just escapes on a raft as the island just kind of engulfs in flames, and you don't really know what's going on. All he knows is he got off of it. Mm-hmm. That's a good ending. But instead, they decide to try and wrap it up where Cheetah, Hyena, where Hyena dies. And you have to watch him go into the fire and them turn against him.
Not even that, though. They even tried to beat it over your head a little bit more about the whole dichotomy between animal and human thing. Because
two more times at the end.
Douglas had a chance to shoot him. He had the gun pointed at him.
Yes.
He chose not to, but then his own animal people turned on him and killed him.
Yeah, so it has to... And then not only that, then... After that scene where it's just like, oh, I guess their animalistic sides took over, we get to Ron Perlman. He's like, I guess 4 legs were better than 2 legs. Like, what the fuck are you trying to tell me anymore, movie?
But they're still acting more civilized. They're not going to their baser animal instincts. And not only that, like you said, if he had just, like, barely escaped, he didn't know what actually happened or what happened, what became of them, and he left. Yeah. That's cool. But he has this whole, like, sad I'm leaving scene.
Yeah,
where there's like, oh, we want you... Like, one of the monkey guys comes up and he's just like, stay. No, you stay here with us.
And who the fuck was that monkey guy?
Never met him before that moment. He was adorable. I will say that.
He was adorable.
He had a very cute moment with him. But yeah, we had never met him before. We had no emotional investment in him. And he's like, no, we need you to stay because we love you so much because... I don't know, you were a dick to us and you tried to shoot us for most of the movie.
Yeah, you have 5 fingers, so please stay?
Like... Yeah, so he gets like a farewell send-off from the mutated animal people.
And then little Buddy shows up for one last time. Like, we had no idea what happened to him. I was
so happy because right before that scene happened, we started talking and we were just like, what happened to him? I hope nothing happened to him. Is he okay? We haven't seen him in a while. I hope he didn't get hurt.
I think he died, but then he just comes
back.
But then
he showed up and we started clapping. We were just like, oh my god, thank you, little buddy, one last time.
It's like this weird Return of the Jedi moment where he's not there one moment and they come back and he's there.
Yeah, he's basically kind of like the ghost Yoda of the island of Dr. Moreau.
And he's still dressed like Marlon Brando.
Which, by the way, towards the end of the movie, like I said, it was just kind of falling apart. I didn't really care anymore. No. So I just started coming up with like different names for the movie. I had Power Corrupts, the Island of Dr. Moreau story. Monkeys with Guns, a father's story. Tuesdays with Brando, the Val Kilmer story. That was my favorite.
My Dinner with Moreau. I do have to say that after I saw this movie the first time, so there's this whole ending scene after Edward gets on the boat, which he has apparently his whole provisions for this trip across a sea that he doesn't know is how large is a barrel full of coconuts. Like not a barrel, like a large, like a medium-sized basket full of coconuts. It's going to sustain him.
He has about between 5 and 8 coconuts.
Yeah, so he has maybe a couple of weeks. Like if he's doing good, at most he has a couple of weeks. And it goes on that once again, just beating it over the head. This whole thing where he's like,
okay, this last scene, I know what you're talking about, where it's kind of showing almost like modern day news footage.
Yes,
tossed in. You know what? That one, and especially with the voiceover, it was very much like Romero Diary of the Dead moment.
Yeah,
it was just kind of beating you over the head with
was.
what they were trying to say about the human condition.
Yes, it was. And like, but even Romero, like, it
works better
not...
within the context of the movie.
Yes.
This movie is so fucking batshit out there that them trying to beat a message over your head in the last 2 minutes of the movie kind of just doesn't fly at that point.
Because they've already tried to beat 2 separate messages in the last couple of minutes, and so now they're trying to beat this other one once more.
Well, that's
the
thing,
just
because
like,
apparently, because when we read about this movie online, it keeps saying that it was set in the year 2010, but it was released in 96. That was never addressed in the movie or said, at least as far as we saw.
Yeah, the version we saw that is not anywhere
it almost
in the movie.
seemed like it was trying to be this like dystopian like future, this like sci-fi society in the future that was off on an island. But then they tried to like bring it back into real life, into present day by having that final scene. And just like, do you know what the fuck you just showed us for an hour and a half? Like, do you really think this is going to have some impact? This is going to make us think when we leave the theater?
Have you seen the movie that you have made? Have you seen the hats that Marlon Brando is wearing? It's not working.
At best, it is fun to laugh at. It is cool to see like some very good makeup effects and some very good... See, because again... a number of times it does kind of have that Planet of the Apes feel, because like when you look at the Tim Burton Planet of the Apes, how we had the actors underneath like the monkey makeup and stuff, and like there were some good performances under that makeup, even though the movie was shit. It had a lot of that in this movie too, to where like there were actors that we didn't even recognize and couldn't tell that's who they were.
Like Ron Perlman.
Yeah, Ron Perlman, but it was just good because of the makeup effects. And that's kind of the best parts of the movie.
Yeah, there's a good movie hiding underneath this movie, and it got transformed into shit somewhere along the way. It's just because it seems like they started out with a movie that they don't want to explain too much. They kind of want to throw you into this world, let you figure it out. And by the end of the movie, they're just going into standard movie tropes, and like, we want this to be recognizable on some degree.
I think that's what happened when Frankenheimer came in. Because like I said, the guy that originally wrote it and was going to direct it, this was like his dream project. He had been working on it for something like 10 years trying to get it made.
Oh, that's so sad.
So like, you could probably tell the good elements that were his ideas.
Yeah.
But then Frankenheimer came in and had to change it, and not only that, it was originally going to be rated R, but it had to be like kind of trimmed down and changed to be a PG-13, so I think a lot of that came into play as well. But it's fucking all over the place. But I still highly recommend this movie. It is an experience to watch.
That is the best thing you can say about this movie. It is by far an experience. It is an experience like no other.
And again, even kind of like knowing a little bit about the movie prior to, and even reading about it before and knowing that like Brando's kind of crazy in it and blah, 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 did not prepare me whatsoever for this movie. Like I was expecting to see like, oh, Brando's going to be silly and doing crazy stuff or whatever. I was fucking knocked on my ass by this movie.
It's so far out there, we can't prepare you for how far out there this movie is.
But you will enjoy yourself. Like there will be times where you kind of hate it. You'll definitely hate the main character. It definitely has its faults, but the scenes that do make you laugh and that you do appreciate and enjoy are just so high up beyond all the faults of this movie that it is definitely worth a watch. It is not an amazing movie, but it is a goddamn entertaining and fun movie.
We get to see little Buddy playing his little piano with his little sheet music. I will never forget that scene for the rest of my life. Beautiful.
I just hope that one day I can have a relationship like that. I just basically from now on for the rest of my life, I'm just looking for my little buddy. And I know you're out there, little buddy. I know you are. And I know you're waiting for me. And I will find you. And we will have the best adventures ever. Well, that was The Island of Dr. Moreau. Next week, we'll be discussing the 1982 made-for-TV film Mazes and Monsters. Not only is it one of the first starring roles of a very young Tom Hanks, but it also shows the evils and dangers of playing role-playing games. Join us next time, here at Crushed Celluloid.